Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Corn Culture. I've got a very special guest here today. Some people say a Midwest legend. I mean, he's made his way around the Midwest, and he is an American through and through. And I'm going to introduce you to him, and he's got a lot of fun things to say. But first, something special I got to talk to you about. This episode is sponsored by Rocket Roll-Offs. If you haven't heard of Rocket Roll-Offs, it is a roll-off company here in Lincoln, Nebraska, but serves about a 70-mile radius in southeast Nebraska. Rocket Roll-Offs provides 15, 20, and 30-yard dumpsters for a variety of projects. My favorite thing about Rocket Roll-Offs is that they have tremendous customer service. You might say customer service out of this world. So call Rocket Roll-Offs. Reach Rocket Roll-Offs at 402-534-1557. Or go on their website at rocketrolloffs.com. Again, that phone number is, and I'm going to warn you, when you call this number, you're going to get the man himself, Mr. Russ Pinion, more than likely. And you can reach him at 402-534-1557. And just go online. That's easier too. So check out Rocket Roll-Offs for your next project. I highly recommend them. I've used them. Hey, I even have my guest here. I'm going to introduce you in a second. He's used Rocket Roll-Offs as well. It's a great local company. But thank you for Rocket Roll-Offs for sponsoring this episode. Thanks so much. Corniacs, I don't even know what to call you. I have big news because I got my first hateful comments the other day on my YouTube channel. I was waiting for the haters to come out of the woodwork. Sure enough, they did. I've got 10 subscribers now, and I've been waiting for the hateful comments to come. As you guys know, I have put out some content that may or may not be controversial, but kind of interesting. The one video that got the most hate was when I claimed that chocolate chip cookies need to be made with semi-sweet chocolate chips. I got 2 hate comments on that. So thank you for everyone that subscribes thus far. I promise to bring more interesting content, and we're going to interview a lot of interesting people like the person I have today, the one and only Mr. Thad Anderson. Thad, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Tanner. I do want to say that, you called me a legend at the beginning, but I really think legends begot legends, because this wouldn't even be possible if it weren't for you. And I will say, if you remember, we had this conversation about a year ago of, do we start a podcast? Do I start my own podcast? Do I just go viral as it is? The fact that you have come to fruition and made this pipe dream a reality, I'm quite impressed. Is this episode 7?
Yep, this is episode 7, and they just keep getting better and better, more and more entertaining. But we had talked about starting a podcast, or at least guest starring on multiple podcasts, because we did go on a podcast one time. Let's tell them about the podcast. We'll have him tell you our story, but we're both in the real estate field, and our real estate brokerage has this real estate podcast. People are giving us applause. I'm not even saying that. Seriously, we had our next meeting, and everyone was like, oh, Tanner and Thad, they were great on the podcast. They're such naturals. And I'm like, yes, we're good at a lot of things, but we're great at talking. We have worked in sales, I will admit.
And what was that podcast about? Do you remember?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, this is funny. We had this opportunity to hop on, and you and I have both been on entrepreneurial or real estate podcasts before, and most of the time, they're a little bit boring. It's a little bit like analytics and stuff. And I were like, nah. We said this. We got to make this interesting. I mean, what do the people want? People want anecdotes. I mean, they want stuff that's interesting. So let's tell them a quick, and I know some of you have seen this clip before, but tell them about the one time you and I did a transaction together.
Well, I think the first 3 times we tried to do a transaction together, that didn't go through.
Nope, didn't.
So have we even really done a transaction together yet? Like, technically? Yes, we did, but it was off market.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
That's right. It was kind of like just our relationship and what it is, and it didn't even feel like a real transaction. It was just very...
It was so easy. Yeah, the first time I had this historic listing say the name of the city, because I don't want people to know which house it is, but I had this really historic listing, and you brought the buyer to the transaction, and I thought we were about to close. It was a cash transaction, and...
2-week close.
And the people, well, it's kind of funny because it was this huge freeze in Nebraska, like it is today. Today's like negative 10 degrees, and I'm glad we're inside here. But just tell them what happened.
Yeah, just these buyers from out of state contacted me, and they're like, because this home was on all the historical sites. They flew up from Texas, rented a truck to buy this house. They wanted to fix it up. They understood there was no running water, no heat, just 1800s house, right? And the buyer comes like fully decked in like an Eskimo outfit, which was pretty cool because I was like, well, she's from Texas, like I get it. But the first thing she said to me was, "What's your last name?" My last name's Anderson. She goes, "I think we're related. And do you have like this Anderson in your family and this Anderson?" And my mom, Lucinda, bless her heart, she is very big into genealogy, so I could have tracked this if we were really related. But that was interesting thing. And I will say, PSA, I am very in tune with fair housing and legalities. And
We keep our nose clean.
Her husband, bless his soul, was deaf, but he refused to learn how to sign language his whole life.
Okay.
So he would only read lips.
Interesting.
And so we were all in the inspection, and he was dead on looking the inspector in the eye, trying to translate in the freezing cold while the inspector was very patient. So anyway, long story short, we get to the very end. I mean, there's treasure chests in there. There's Titanic-style safes. Could have had a drawing with Rose in it. Who knows? And all of a sudden, we get to the closing time, and she goes, "Hey, Thad, I just want to ask a question. Where's that toboggan?" I'm like, first, racking my brain, like, what's a toboggan? And she's like, well, it's right next to the bird cage there in the garage. And so it was an antique shed. We looked it up. Maybe they just took the kids out sledding. It was wintertime. Because she had severe anxiety, she said, I didn't even touch any of the boxes or those Elvis records I really wanted to look at, even though he's the king. And she goes, if they moved the toboggan, what else did they move? Unbeknownst to me, I was getting screenshots taken of a 2-hour virtual walkthrough. We had everything in writing. Everything was legit. There was no deceiving anybody. I think rubber met the road. They probably realized how much work the house needed, and it was more than what they were probably paying for on the home.
Yeah. And so that just goes to show you that sometimes like that real estate transaction fell through because of a toboggan, really. But it's never about the toboggan. It's just the toboggan is symbolic for people having disagreements and not quite getting along.
What's the famous quote you always say? It's not about how people feel, it's how you make them feel.
Right. I think it's a Maya Angelou quote. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. That's true. If you haven't caught on, listeners, we are in real estate, so hit us up if you are in Nebraska or wherever. We work for a national company, and we will help you with real estate needs. Today, we're here to talk about other stuff. Tell me, Thad, what is your story?
And why should people buy from you? Thad, I'm a local Michigander. I've been in Nebraska for the last 8 years. I'm a realtor in 2 states now. I just got my license in Michigan, where my family still is, this last fall. But since I've been out here in Nebraska since 2017, this is my home too. This is where people that I know. I've built a lot of long-lasting relationships, personal and professional. I had an insurance agency. They just switched out my sign last night on O Street. My old insurance agency sign.
Finally, wow.
But yeah, I ran more of a employee benefits, business-to-business agency out here in Lincoln. Work did not bring me here. Husker football, believe it or not.
Go Big Red.
Brought me here. I always tell people I am a Husker fan, except for when they play Michigan State. But the culture, the tailgating, my old mentor, well, he's still a good friend of mine, flew me out in 2016 and sold me on a game day experience of Husker football. Everyone is so awesome here. This is so crowded. And then I moved, and it was a Wednesday. Matt, where did everyone go? And he goes, Thad, you realize like that's only on game days, right? And there's probably 6 a year, but they consider Memorial Stadium the 3rd largest city in the state of Nebraska on game days. So I said, was that a bait and switch to get? But I will say Lincoln has really grown even since 2016.
True.
It's 10 years now.
Yeah. 10 years ago. What was I doing 10 years ago?
Were you at Parkview balling out?
2016. I would have been a senior in high school at Parkview Christian School in North Lincoln. Speaking of athletics, as this is being recorded right now, Nebraska Corn Husker men's basketball is undefeated, and hopefully they can stay on that. Hopefully that they can stay undefeated and get number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. So,
how do you think that's going to go? You follow every game. I will say you turn your phone on D&D when the Huskers are playing.
Well, yeah, I didn't used to do that until I saw the magical run that's going on right now. This is being recorded on a Friday the 23rd. Tomorrow they go to Minneapolis to play the Golden Gophers. I think they come out with a victory there. I think they're pretty good road warriors. I think they pull that one off. It'll be close, though, because as you know, the better you are, the bigger the target on your back becomes. So people are going to be gunning for the currently number 7 AP ranked Nebraska Cornhuskers. And then I believe it's Tuesday, they take on the Michigan Wolverines. And I just am not sure. I like to have faith, but if they're going to stumble, that's probably where they stumble.
Yeah.
It is. It's up in Ann Arbor. I do expect them to put up a pretty good fight. And I hope they prove me wrong. But, yeah, Big Ten's pretty competitive this year. And just like Indiana football, Nebraska Cornhusker basketball.
Now, I hate to flip the script here and put you on the spot, but as you know, I am more of a millennial. You are more
True.
new school.
Gen Z.
Can you name 2 of the retired Husker men's basketball players' numbers that are hanging in the rafters at Pinnacle Bank Arena?
No, but I'll take a guess. 42 and 12.
No, who they were.
Oh, I have no idea.
Like
I'll
the
say
actual player.
I'll say Tyronn Lue.
Okay, yep.
Yep.
Got it on that.
Probably one of the most famous things when Kobe stepped over him. And then I'll say, I think someone's last name is Platowski, maybe.
Okay.
Is that right?
You knew the exact 2 I was going to mention. Eric Piakowski played for the Clippers.
There you go. Yeah, I knew a little bit. I'm not a bandwagoner. I'm go Big Red. I know stuff. But
52, I believe, which was my high school number.
It was?
Yeah.
But do I say it? I had to say it. I have to go there. So if you're interested in basketball, if you follow basketball, this is why I call him. And by the way, he goes by a lot of nicknames. What are the top nicknames you go by?
In Nebraska, I always preface this right, because if you say this to a stranger and they don't know me, they see this big guy with a beard and a deep voice coming by, and they say, "What's your nickname, Thad?" And I say, "Call me Thaddy Daddy."
Classic.
Usually the first thing they think of, it's not good.
They think it's a certain connotation with it.
Yes.
Sure.
And so I always go back to when I got that nickname when we first met almost 4 years ago, was from a male. But then not only was it from a male, but then the person that embodied it the most was also a male and a former U.S. Marine. My point is, it is a platonic nickname. For those that are not comfortable, sometimes they just say TD. But yeah, I've had Thadderoni and Cheese, American Thaddiators,
Classic.
Teddy, Theodore, Thad Castle, if you watch Blue Mountain State.
I was expecting a couple, but
What was a good one that someone called me from our company as well? Thaddeus Mayweather.
Whoa, that's a good one
cool
too.
one.
These are good. But long story short, well, why does this man have so many nicknames? Because his stardom started years ago. And he was a locally famous basketball player, Mr. Thadderoni and Cheese here. One day, he's lacing up the shoes and about to play in an AAU game. Is this right?
Yeah.
And then you looked up, and who was on the other team?
LeBron James.
LeBron James, which I know you've heard of. So what happened? What was going on?
I always have to preface it because we're the same age. We were 17, juniors in high school. It was a tournament at Cleveland State University. My Macomb County Cougars was actually the team that I played for, but our coach was a hustler, right? He would always, almost like a salesperson, get us into these tournaments. And somehow he nabbed, I think we're considered a Division II AAU team.
Okay.
So it'd probably be like out here in Nebraska Westland, or Wayne State. We weren't the Huskers, right? So he recruited us into this Adidas-sponsored tournament at Cleveland State. I'm just like, that's weird. We've never had a brand name. Like, we have these ragtag jerseys, like the worst material you could think of, has like a makeshift cougar on them. But I've shrunk a little bit. I was 6'5" back then. Obviously, I've grown. I'm a football player now, but back then I was cut. So I would play the 1 through 5. On my team, I had 2 6'11" and 7-footers. So I could easily play point. I could run the wing. Long story short, we're just embracing it, right? We're like, hey, we're going to Cleveland for the weekend. We get there, and the first team we draw is called the Michigan Panthers. And not only was it LeBron, but it was a group of entire Division I basketball players that all already had scholarships. Like the guy I guarded was going to play at Pittsburgh the next year. And this team was like a dream team. I didn't know who LeBron James was. He had just gotten the Sports Illustrated cover, The Chosen One. The Hummer controversy had just started. He hadn't even gone on ESPN yet for like his senior year where they were all televised. He was still coming up, but apparently even when he was 16, 17, like he was still looked at by pros. So there was a Cleveland Cavs scout there that was making fun of me from the tip-off. If you don't know, I'm fueled by the haters. And motivation, being told I can't do something.
Right.
So I'm already getting mocked at the beginning from who knows. I didn't know it was a Cleveland Cavs scout at the time. And he's like, come on, number 52, you can do it. And LeBron's standing next to me at the tip-off, and he's like, 52 is not going to score. It wasn't like trash talk, like a Gary Payton or a Jordan or a Reggie Miller type trash. Like it was etiquette was on point. And when I actually looked back, I think LeBron graduated with like a 3.9 or almost a 4.0 from St. Vincent St. Mary's. And so I was like, dude was special. And then obviously like warm-ups, his arm was this high above the rim, just jumping.
Yeah.
And so I was very physical. For those old school listeners, I was more like a Bill Laimbeer style, but I could kind of be like a Wally Zerbiak, where I'd shoot the three. And so then, first play of the game, LeBron's not even trying. Like, he's backed off me. I'm like, okay, go right ahead. I scored a three on him. We're playing zone, right? So I always tell people he didn't score on me, but then I make the joke we were playing zone, so technically I didn't guard him.
It doesn't count.
So then we come back down on the other side. I get the ball at the top of the key, hit a little jumper for another 2. So now I got 5 points on him.
Ugh.
And then probably next play down, I was very big on the boards. I got the rebound. I was actually better with my left when it came to around the paint. I switched from my right to my left to get it. And my dad said that he was ready to just swap my stuff out of the gym. If I wouldn't have switched to my left, it would have been quite embarrassing. That's when I got the 7 points. And then I was pulled from the game. I think I barely played the rest of the game. I was going like 7 points for me on arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. I thought it was pretty good. But to my coach, I guess it wasn't. He then dunked on my teammate and rubbed his shorts in his face the next play down. So maybe it was good that I left. I get a little too excited, but there's a lot of after stories of this story too.
It was clearly impactful in your life. I mean, that was the gasoline to your engine, the springboard to your life. That was back when you were a kid, 2002.
Can I tell you just one of the after stories?
Yes.
Before we switch?
Of anecdotes.
I get excited about this topic. It actually has something to do with Nebraska, right? Because if you just, to my friends, believe me, I have an article in the local newspaper. It's legit.
Right.
But if you ask someone, they're like, what, you scored on 2K? Sometimes people are like, why don't you drop it more? Sometimes I'm an internet troll. In a good way. I just like to spark some friendly debate. The Lady Huskers were having a record season with Markowski a few years ago. I think they were like 21-7 or something crazy like that. They weren't even nationally ranked at the time. I was actually quite frustrated about it. But I was following intently that season. I was following the team just as you are with men's basketball this year. They would do all these dances on the sidelines, like the bench mob. This one girl that led the bench mob transferred to K-State or something, and I think she was a sophomore, junior. And so I got on there and I commented and I said on the Facebook post, I said, well, maybe if she spent more time, practicing or taking basketball a little more seriously, she wouldn't have transferred and spent less time worrying about the bench mob dances. Her mom, Nebraska being a small, big town, jumps on the post and goes, Thad Anderson, what have you ever done with your life in basketball? This girl, my daughter, she plays Division I college basketball. What have you ever done in your basketball career that ever amounted to anything?
Boom.
And so, okay, now I'm heated. I said, well, I scored on arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. Not only scored, but 7 points on LeBron James. Is that D1 basketball? Like, no, but it's a cooler story, right? So then the funny part is, for those that know me, shout out to any single ladies out there that are watching, but I am a single dude.
He is single, but we're going to fix that soon.
But I was single then too, mostly by choice, just because I'm picky. But the dad then hops on the post. So it's the husband and wife like battling me at this point over a LeBron James story. Okay. And the dad goes, you scored 7 points on LeBron James, but you're still single?
That's kind of funny.
And I was like, what does my dating life have anything to do with something I did 20 years ago when I was 17 years old?
But there's a lot of successful people that are bachelors. There's big accomplished people that are bachelors, so I don't know.
That's true. I just thought that was a funny premise, getting attacked. Kudos to them. I get it. If I had a daughter, I'd probably be battling in the comments too. I keep it tucked in my back pocket.
Just in case you have to pull out your credentials on someone. That's funny. So now what are you doing? You've had a career in real estate. And you've also had a career in insurance for a little bit. But what's the future look like for you? What's going on next in your life?
Yeah, so that's the $1 million question, right? This is, funny enough, my third podcast in a week. I've made a goal in 2026 of advertising myself more, getting more out to the public, not just as a business person, but as a friend, trying to constantly better myself. So People that know me well, I've always been very work focused because I feel like it keeps you out of trouble, right? Like if you are always, I don't want to say it, but trying to make money in a legal way, you're going to be still on the streets. I'm very motivated to not get in trouble. I don't know. That's a weird way to say
idle
it.
hands are the work of the devil. There you go.
But I'm very conscious, and I think that really comes from insurance and real estate. We're always on a platform. Like, everyone is watching us. It got to a point when I was going to all these Husker football games, and I didn't miss a home game for 5 years. Not by watching the game, but by going downtown to the Haymarket, celebrating and meeting people. I've actually met a lot of good clients. I got to head to Adams here in a little bit for one of them. If for some reason they see me double fisting with a couple beers in the Haymarket, they're going to say, do I want to do insurance or real estate with that guy? And so it kind of goes both coins. Some people are like, yeah, like that's more relatability. We want to be with that guy. And then some people are like, I don't really want someone handling my largest asset that maybe looks like he's not handling a Bud Light too well. So that's a vague answer to what's next, but I've got a lot of different goals this year. It's funny you mentioned that. I sat with a couple mentors last night and asked them the same exact question. And you want to know what they told me? What? They told me their faith in God and their health and their family. And these are business owners that are probably multimillionaires. Yeah. And I was just like, what's your goal for the next year? And I thought they were going to tell me, like, I want to do 40 million in sales or whatever it is. And they really went back to those basics. It kind of humbled me a little bit, right? Because these are people that I look up to, and I was looking for them to give me that exact number, and they gave me more a relationship with those three things.
Yeah, I mean, those are the things that are important because your family, money comes and goes, but your family is going to be there for you, hopefully, and obviously your faith in God. And if you've ever lost your health, you've been sick for a while, it's hard. I was thinking about the verse today. What's the verse today, guys? Let's look it up. I have something fun to share, too. This is from the YouVersion app. They have a verse of the day. I actually went to a talk a couple of months ago, and the CEO, the inventor of the YouVersion app, the Bible app, who was there. I saw him give a speech. He was talking about making the app and how they've almost translated the Bible into every language in the world. It's pretty soon it'll be that way. But here's the verse of the day. It comes from Romans chapter 8, verse 1. Therefore, there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Classic, easy. Have you ever read Romans chapter 8?
Probably at some point, but I don't remember it off the top of my head.
It's good.
I remember your tattoo.
Yes, I am tatted up with Romans chapter 8. A couple excerpts, some of my favorite excerpts from Romans chapter 8. Verse 31, what then shall we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who could be against us? And then I like the way it ends. It says, for I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all of creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord.
And wasn't it, speaking of Romans, wasn't it that same book that talks about money being the root of all evil, and at the end of the day, you don't need to be caring about food or your clothes that you wear or the money that you have, because your treasure is bigger in heaven.
I think that's probably mentioned in Romans too, but also in the Gospel of Matthew talks about that. Like, why do you worry about what you're going to eat and stuff? Doesn't God take care of the birds and stuff? And of course, he's going to take care of you. He loves you. Because faith is the one thing that you need. It's kind of like the baseline for your joy. We've all been through difficult things. Life throws punches at us. I know that you've had difficult things. You've faced adversity. Most everyone has. But what I've come to learn is it's not what happens to you. It's how you respond to it. You're going to have to overcome the adversity. I always think about, again, going back to the Gospel of Matthew, do you build your life on the rock or on the sand? If you build your life on the sand, the winds and the rains of life come and go, and your life crumbles. But if your life is built on the rock, adversity comes, the rains, the winds of life, but you stand firm, right? You overcome it, because no matter what happens, no matter if my sales are low today, no matter if my girlfriend leaves me, I have my faith, and he's there for me.
Oh, and you have a wife, so you don't have to worry about that.
I do have a wife. Yep. She can't kick me out. We're going to church on Sunday too. I think you're coming to church, right?
Yes, Calvary.
Oh yeah, Calvary Community Church, 4400 North 1st Street. If you don't have a church family, definitely check out Calvary Community Church. Great church. He came all the way to Lincoln just to go to church, basically. It's going to be good. And then also, I don't know if I should ask you this live or not, because
go ahead.
My grandpa told me not to ask you, but if you're not doing anything after church, chili and cinnamon rolls at my grandparents' house right after church.
Oh.
He told me not to ask you on the podcast, so it was a live ask. But I'm like, I'm just going to do it.
Definitely answer is yes. My flight is not until 3 o'clock. And as we know, Lincoln Airport, great airport, by the way, that I'm flying in and out of, it takes like 10 minutes to
Easy.
get to your gate.
It's a super small airport. And, you know, I got to say this every time I'm on the podcast. Typically, after church, where would we be going for lunch?
To Via More.
Just say it. See, we've always said Via More, but I called there the other day to order some pizza, and I live 45 minutes away on an acreage, but I still get it to go. They answered the phone, hello, this is Villa Amore. I'm like, what the heck? I've never said it that way. I guess I've said it wrong the whole time. But yeah, we usually go there, but I think we're going over to Grandma and Papa's house. I won't say their address live on the podcast because they probably wouldn't want that.
Speaking of chili and cinnamon rolls, though, I have yet to see that as one of your topics. I know you said the semi-sweet chocolate chips had some controversial comments.
It was.
However, what's even more controversial is when there's a chili cook-off in Michigan and you bring cinnamon rolls and they have no idea what that even is. And I said, guys, in Nebraska, they are brought up on this even in grade school. So
yeah, I mean, when you're a baby.
Is there a certain style? Are you dipping? Are they separate? Is it certain roll? Like what's the right way to do it?
You're asking me something that I'm really passionate about. You're asking me something, so okay. Because, you know, I get like a little emotional thinking about it because I'll tell you a story. Years ago, I had this cinnamon roll that was so good and it's always stuck in my mind. I think about it every single day. I've tried to duplicate that cinnamon roll. I just have never been able to. I've never been able to find, I mean, I've gone to the big brand names. I've cooked at home. I've never been able to duplicate that cinnamon roll. I'm going to try though, because once you have something, you just have to keep going for it. But let me describe this to you. It was the dough was perfect. Not too firm, not too doughy. For my personal preferences, I don't tend to like the cream cheese. I'm more of like the icing type. But I bit into it, and the cinnamon, sugar, and brown sugar in there was sort of coarse. It was kind of crunchy. So when I bit into the cinnamon roll, it was like, you know, it was soft, and then I had that crunch, and it was the perfect balance of things. It was just so good. There's so much I could say about that cinnamon roll, but I just can't seem to find the words to say it. And so that's my thing on cinnamon rolls. Now, when it comes to chili, your parents or your grandparents always make it the best. I don't like mine too spicy. I just don't like very spicy stuff. But I typically like to so here's what I do. Chili, shredded cheese, oyster crackers. Unless I'm feeling a little dirty, I'll put some Doritos in there. If I'm feeling kind of naughty, I'll put like some, or even Fritos, because I'm like that. And sour cream. You got to put all that stuff in there.
Well, dollop.
So yeah, I smash that. Make sure my cinnamon roll's warm, and then I start smashing a couple of those. And then typically, I try to nap after that between 90 and 180 minutes, just to be safe to work off the calories by sleeping. And then that's my strategy. What about you? I mean, tell me about your background in cinnamon rolls.
So the background honestly wasn't until Nebraska. And just like everybody, if you look on TikTok or wherever this conversation pops up, I laughed at it. But me being a foodie, I didn't think it was disgusting. I was like, maybe savory and sweet. Maybe they're on something to here. So I will be honest, though.
Okay.
So my last relationship was in 2022 with a Nova Scotian girl that lived 2,500 miles away.
International.
I went international. What? She flew to Nebraska 5 times in 5 months. Awesome gal. And met her in Nashville, which is another story. I waited until 2022. I had already lived here 5 years at that point to try chili and cinnamon rolls. Yeah. So we went down by Capitol Beach and we just dove into chili and cinnamon rolls. So sat there by the water, and it was actually kind of romantic, but we did not do it like separate. We straight up dipped the cinnamon roll into the chili and ate it. And we were both pleasantly surprised at how good that was. Cause I know that's always the debate. Do you dip it or eat them separately? Maybe unpopular opinion, I do not like Runza's cinnamon rolls. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it more. It sounds like the small business chain, homemade way to do it. And I was curious, like in grade school, how did they do it here? What kind of cinnamon roll was that? Was there beans in the chili?
Are there beans in the chili? You know, I guess it would depend on what you get when you dip that cinnamon bun on that dough. What kind of ingredients are you getting? It's a good contrast between sweet and salty. So that's good. It is kind of an integral part of Nebraska. Some things started in Nebraska. Dorothy Lynch, Kool-Aid, the McRib, the Reuben sandwich.
Omaha, the Tin Roof Sundae.
I think that's also accurate. We're claiming this all. Vice Grips. from Nebraska. That's true. Warren
It's
Buffett.
on one of the world's largest underground aquifer
In Oglala.
that feeds, well, not feeds, but they drink, covers like 3 million people for fresh water in that area.
There you go. The more you know. I mean, we're giving you a history lesson right now. I mean, the people should be paying us.
That is a funny thing is when I go back to Michigan and I start giving Nebraska facts, people almost get jealous that I educate them more on that state than they can educate them on their own state.
People don't know about Nebraska. That people just don't know about it. And if you ever meet a Nebraskan out in the wild, people are always like, do you know so-and-so? I actually do know that person. Or people are like, oh, that person's from Nebraska. It's a special state, especially here in Lincoln.
You always get a go big red if you're traveling around the nation and you're wearing any kind of Husker gear and someone picks you out of a restaurant or something.
Oh, yeah. They know. Forgot where we were going.
Talking about food.
Dude,
chili and cinnamon rolls.
Yeah, don't get me started with all that stuff. Food's kind of changed my life.
I want to switch it to you.
Okay.
What's your goal moving forward? What's the goal with corn culture? What's the goal with Tanner moving in 2026? What's the end game of this platform?
That's interesting. If I'm being completely honest with you, I didn't really want to start a podcast. It was one of those things where, and I heard this quote and it really resonated with me. I'll tell you two things because this is a little bit weird, and I'll change some details to protect some identities. But basically what happened was I heard this quote that says, if you're good at something, you'll tell everyone. But if you're great at something, everyone will tell you. So, I was having all these people saying, you need to start a podcast. I was like, okay, I don't really want to do it. I don't have time because in case most people don't know, I'm busy with real estate. I have other businesses and I live on an acreage. So I have stuff to do, but I'm like, people are doing this. And then the weirdest thing happened. Someone came up to me and they were like, hey, can I talk to you about something, Tanner? And I'm like, sure. Like, what's up? Hey, this is really weird, but I discovered this new podcast and I think they were talking about you and your family. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, yeah, would you take a few minutes and listen to this? And sure enough, there's this podcast that someone made in Nebraska. And on one of the episodes, they dove into what's the word, like a diatribe? Hold on, let me look this word up. I think the word I'm looking for is diatribe. I don't know.
I also like that you have like the Theo Vaughn style of the look up.
I gotta look stuff up.
Podcast. Yeah.
What is diatribe? A diatribe is a forceful and bitter verbal attack against someone or something. Yeah, so a diatribe. They don't name me by name, but they start talking about me and my family on this podcast and kind of mocking us, mocking our faith and stuff.
Wow.
And I know, and some family members caught on and they're like, and at that moment, it just clicked in me. I said, I'm done being quiet. I'm done. I'm standing up for what's right. You can say stuff about me, but you say stuff about my family. I'm like, no. The thing I said was, I'll make a podcast, but I'm going to make it so much bigger and better. And someday, I don't mean this to sound bitter or resentful, but I said, they're going to regret ever saying that about me, because I have been nothing but gracious and nice to people. This sounds like I'm plotting my villain arc story, but I have this, my grandparents are amazing, but one of my great grandma, and this is probably why my grandparents are amazing, said a few things that always stuck with me. Act as good as you dress, you'll always be okay. And the other thing she said is, do right, and you'll never be wrong. I said, it's wrong for me not to stand up for what's right. It's wrong for me to not stand up for justice. You can't stand by and don't say anything. That's just as bad as doing something wrong. From that day forward, I'm like, I'm doing it. And then it really, I wasn't going to do a podcast until later in my life, but I knew I was going to do one. But then when Charlie Kirk got assassinated, and then that just hit me. And I'm just like, that could have been, there's so many people that I love and that could have been them.
When you made that Facebook post, was that around the same time you had heard of someone talking about
that was shortly afterwards. About a month before that, I heard someone had made a podcast segment about my family and I. And then that happened. I made this honest, raw, non-offensive Facebook post. Sure enough, there were people DMing me, say both good and bad. There are people DMing me saying, hey, I support you. Or people texting me and being like, I really appreciate you saying something. We love you, Tanner. I'm just trying to do the right thing here. As to be expected, there were haters. Most of the time I'm joking about haters, like people, talking about, no, milk chocolate chips are better than chocolate chip cookies. But these were actually pretty rude comments, pretty aggressive stuff. And I just said, I typically just respond, I'm really sorry you feel that way. I'm really sorry. I'm not going to get into a back and forth with you. I want you to know that I'm always going to tell the truth. And I'm always going to say it with love. And that's what's kind of been missing in our world for a long time, the truth. And you should never, if there's one thing that I want people to take away from this podcast, so if I am, by God's grace, successful with this podcast, and I get to meet lots of fun people, there's one thing that I want people to remember. Never be afraid to tell the truth. Always just do the right thing. And, it's going to cost you some time. But I want to read this quote here that I saw.
When you're looking that up, I'll give you a quote from my grandpa. Speaking of grandparents, my grandpa, Howard May, paratrooper in World War II, thank you all for your service. He said, the difficult is easy to accomplish. The impossible just takes a little longer.
That's true. Especially since we serve a sovereign God. God knew us from, in our mother's womb, and he knit us there, and he knows us and he loves us. There's really nothing that's impossible. The quote I was looking for is, if there's one thing I want people to take away from this podcast, or when they meet me, people I meet in the street, whether it's at work, I want them to know that you should never be afraid to tell the truth. I heard this quote and it's always inspired me. This is from C.S. Lewis. By the way, pretty much he's the GOAT. I could go on and on about his books. I love the Screw Tape Letters, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, all of them. So this is the quote. If you look for truth, you may find comfort in the end. If you look for comfort, you will not get either comfort or truth, only soft soap and wishful thinking to begin with, and in the end, despair. So if you try to stay comfortable, it's going to end up good. I mean, you got to get out of your comfort zone, but ultimately, if you just pursue the truth, it's going to be okay. I've lost lots of friends and family, and people have, certainly, been, number of words, rude, aggressive, physically pushed me. I can tell so many anecdotes about people not loving what I'm saying, but that just emboldens me more. I'm always going to tell the truth. I'm never going to lie to people.
I know we're probably getting a little close on time, but I want to lighten the mood a little bit.
Do it, yeah, because this was supposed to be like a 30-minute podcast. We're about 15 minutes right now, so.
Okay.
But go ahead.
One thing I have yet to see you talk about on any of your podcasts, maybe it's because I'm not fully subscribed yet. I'm like a half subscriber, but I'm working on my full subscription.
Okay.
Ice cream. What does 2026 look like for you with ice cream? I know you've had some changes and a lot of breakthroughs in that industry.
Yeah, ice cream has always been a really big part of my life. I can say when things got tough, I could always enjoy a good bowl of ice cream. We have one ice cream store here in Lincoln, 70th and Van Dorn, and they're sponsoring some of the next episodes. And by the way, little plug, if you want to subscribe and if you want to sponsor an episode, we have subscription models that fit your business's need. So sorry, little plug and stuff, and we can certainly do that. The podcast setup is also portable, so we've had some businesses that want us to record live from their business, so we can do that as well. But yeah, so we're going to keep chugging along with ice cream. We've got some big accounts, which I'm grateful for. A lot of people ordered a lot of ice cream.
What's your favorite kind?
My favorite ice cream, excuse me, well, let me not answer the question. I'll say this. If I had, this is what I like to do, this little thought experiment. Design your perfect ice cream. So if I designed a perfect ice cream flavor, here's what I would do. I'm going to do a vanilla base, brownie pieces, a little swirl of fudge Oreo pieces. Ooh. Actually, knock out the fudge, do brownie batter in there. So I'm going to call this chocolatey cookie extreme. The other flavor I would do would be cheesecake flavors in there and do like a mixed berry cheesecake. What about you? What's your favorite flavor or design?
Growing up, it was, for whatever reason, always mint chocolate chip.
Classic.
And you being a supporter of local Michigan products,
I do.
Ashby's ice cream, they are very popular out there for Superman ice cream.
It's tight.
And Mackinac Island fudge. For those that don't know Mackinac, we didn't dive much into Michigan history, which is today. Great Lakes State.
We could. Next
still
episode.
A great place. Those were really probably my top three growing up. Fourth, I really have an order, I guess, if you want to talk about
Let's do it.
As a kid, right? And then I'll show you the morphosis.
Okay.
So, mint chocolate chip, Superman, Mackinac Island fudge, and then cookie dough.
Classic.
And then once I got older, first off, I hate butter pecan. Unpopular opinion, but that's my dad's favorite ice cream.
When you turn about 61 years old, that's when you start to like it. Ooh, that's just true.
Anything with nuts, I don't want to be chewing my ice cream.
No, I hate nuts. Thank you. Someone finally said
Yes.
it. Dude, do not put nuts in ice cream, please.
But I would have to go really toward what you were doing. I wouldn't do the Oreo, but Moose Tracks is always a popular mine. When you mentioned the brownie batter, I really like Ben & Jerry's brownie core.
Oh,
I can just eat every day. Goals for this year, definitely working out more so I can eat more brownie batter.
Yes.
But I'm not really – it's not the flavor of ice cream, right? It's the – setting and the producer, because as you know, freezer burn can happen quite easily.
Yes.
And those businesses advertising handcrafted ice cream, I think of Mackinac Island when I think of this. Need to go there someday. It's just like that really fresh. It's just like a chocolate chip cookie, right? Like when it comes out of the oven and it's homemade. It's the same thing with ice cream.
It's the nostalgia. It's the ambiance. Yeah.
It's just the smooth, but it's still firm and cold.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's people get so caught up in this flavor or that flavor, but it's ultimately, here's the thing. Was the pastry or ice cream made with patience and love? Do you know what I mean? Because if it's not made with love, then if people just throw the ingredients, no, you've got to dive in. I mean, and you've got to care about what you do. So that's true. Thank you for talking about ice cream and stuff. I think this wraps up our interview today. I really hope we can hop on the pod later. Thad is heading out of town here to go to another real estate meeting. He's only in Nebraska for like 48 hours, but he is rolling quick, and I'm very grateful that he was gracious enough to stop on the pod, Corn Culture. But anything else you'd like to say?
No, just appreciate our friendship, appreciate everything we've done over the years, whether it was being an usher in your wedding or a Bible study group on Wednesdays.
Oh, yeah.
Ice cream shop days. I mean, I think I'm even writing you into my will possibly at one point. But yeah, I think we've had a good partnership and friendship. I love Cheyenne. As you know, I love your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Not like that. But I will say, every time I think of our friendship and business relationship, I go back to one question she asked me.
Okay.
Because you know me, I like to be challenged a little bit, right?
Yes.
And she wasn't doubting me, but she was asking one of those thoughtful questions of, do you think that, and I can't remember what it was about, maybe we were looking into being an actual official real estate team at one point, and she goes, do you think that's going to hurt your relationship with Tanner if you decide to do that joint business venture? And I was just like, you know what? I never thought of that. But and I don't know if she was coming more of like, maybe I do have a track history of some implosion. but she was just kind of like hearing stories or be like, well, you know, maybe he went off on bad terms with so-and-so. Is he going to go off on bad terms with Tanner? And I said, confidently, I talk to Tanner almost every day.
Yeah.
We've never had an argument. Not even really disagreement, just like agreeing to disagree.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty cool to see. But Cheyenne, if you're listening out there, no, we are not going to implode. We're not going anywhere.
We're like a potato underground. Our roots are getting deep, but soon we're going to blossom. I don't know anything about produce, but basically our roots are going down and we're getting fed with water, and soon we're going to blossom. You know, I just think about a great oak tree. It used to be a little nut one time, a little acorn. Thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. This is a little bit of a longer episode. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, hit us up. Will be future things. Thank you, Rocket Roll-Offs, of course, for sponsoring this episode. If you'd like to be sponsored an episode at some time, do it. This has been another episode of Corn Culture with Mr. Thad Anderson, also known as Thaddy Daddy. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Hey, like I always say, never give up and never give in. Have a great day.